Thank you for that lovely welcome, and thank you to the band, the choir. Amazing setup this morning. Don't you love the stage? Those flowers are beautiful, fantastic praise and worship, and what a great Mother's Day song presentation. Well, thank you for coming to church today, and for anyone who's new or visiting, an extra special welcome to you. As Donna kindly said, my name is Kylie. I've been coming to this church for many, many years. And I'm excited that you're here today. It's better than speaking to an empty room. So thank you for coming along. The topic that I'm going to talk on today is called The Whole Story. So if you're taking notes, it's called The Whole Story. Everybody here has a story of where they grew up, where they studied, what job they've done, where they've travelled or haven't travelled. Everybody here has a different story. My story is that I was brought up in a great, normal Christian family. The only thing that I knew wasn't normal was that there was 10 of us in our family. I'm the oldest of 8 children, and we had a family car, which wasn't a normal family car. It was a 15-seater minivan. So just from those two things alone, I knew quite early that we weren't normal in that one sense. We would pile out of our minivan and I'd see people going, 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, yeah, there's 10 of us. So I knew early that was the abnormal thing. As I matured, I realised my normal was only normal for me. My normal is not the same as Nancy's normal, Mafaro's normal, Tyler's normal. Anyone's normal in here. And then when I got married to Sam, I realised on a whole nother level my normal was only normal for me. Sam was born to he was born in Australia, but to 2 Italian-born parents. My backyard had green grass in it. Sam's backyard, no, it didn't have concrete. It had a huge veggie patch, like the whole backyard was a veggie patch with every vegetable in it, including fruit, and right up in the back corner, chooks. It had chickens so that you could get the eggs. My garage had cars in it. Sam's garage had salami hanging from the roof. It had pretty much a kitchen, table, chairs, homemade wine in the corner. It did not look like my kitchen. I thought food was cooked in a microwave. Sam's mum didn't own a microwave. Sam's mum handmade everything. I thought packet mix was making a cake from scratch. My normal was not Sam's normal, and my normal isn't your normal. We all have a story from our past. And if we make judgments based on our own story, we miss the strength and the beauty that comes from others' stories. One story in the Bible is the woman caught in adultery. I'm going to read now her story from John 8, chapter 3 to 11. It says, "The teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought in a woman caught in adultery. They made her stand before the group and said to Jesus, 'Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. In the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now what do you say?' They were using this question as a trap in order to have a basis for accusing him. But Jesus bent down and started to write on the ground with his finger. When they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said to them, 'Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her.' Again he stooped down and wrote on the ground. At this, those who heard began to go away one at a time, the older ones first, until only Jesus was left, with the woman still standing there. Jesus straightened up and asked her, 'Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?' 'No one, sir,' she said. 'Then neither do I condemn you,' Jesus declared. 'Go now and leave your life of sin.'" To have the compassion Jesus had, we can't judge people based on our own story. We have to see people the way God sees them. The Pharisees saw the woman as a sinner, someone to be made an example of. Jesus saw her as somebody who just needed forgiveness. When Jesus caused the people that were standing around her to stop and look at their own story, when he asked in verse 7, "Let any of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her," they had to walk away one by one. How do you see her? It's easy for us to make surface judgments on people's lives without understanding their story. I used to be a personal trainer many years ago, and I would train women in a park about 30 minutes away from here. There was a man that lived in the grandstand there. It was so easy to make a judgment just by looking at him. He was in his late 50s, early 60s. His clothes were worn and tattered. He literally had nothing. It was easy to judge him, be fearful of him, and write him off without hearing his story. I had a group of women that we would come a few times a week and train in that park, and we would bring our kids. And while we were training, there was a park there with, play equipment that the kids could have trained on, but they loved the grandstand, and they'd all play in that grandstand. And this older gentleman who lived there, he would find cigarette packets that were left laying around, or his, I'm not sure. And he would take out, in the packet, there's a little silver pieces of paper, and he would make little origami animals and give them to the kids. And so that they loved that. He was just a lovely old man who had a story. Over the years we were there, we learnt he used to live in the Hills area, which is where we are today, with his wife and his children. He lost his job, he became an alcoholic, and due to worsening mental issues, he ended up living in the grandstand. He had trauma in his life and other circumstances, and he found the grandstand somewhere that he could cope with living with. He was there for many years, and people would bring him clothes and food, and over the years his notoriety grew. Due to people's generosity and kindness, word got out that the grandstand was the place to be. And more homeless people started living there. By the time most mornings, there were 8 to 10 people that were living there. And so the council and the right departments got involved, and they ended up rehoming this man into a home. And I never saw him again. But today I know that my children and anybody who lived in that area at that time will remember that man. And my kids remember the little silver origami animals that he used to make. I needed to see this man through the eyes of Jesus and understand that he too had a story. And 1 Peter 3 verse 8 says it like this: "Finally, all of you, be like-minded, be sympathetic, love one another, be compassionate and humble." Compassion isn't unwise. It is not judgmental. It doesn't leave people in their sin, but points people to Jesus, whether that be through a listening ear, acts of kindness, forgiveness, a smile, or encouraging words. The woman caught in adultery could have had her life ended that day. She had a story. We don't know what her story was. The Pharisees didn't care what her story was. But Jesus saw her, he forgave her, and gave her a fresh start in her life, the chance to create a brand new story. We are all different. Look around in this room. We are all different. We all have a story. We come from different backgrounds with different experiences and worldviews, but God loves us all. The meaning of compassion is to recognize the suffering of others and then take action to help. Compassion embodies a tangible expression of love for those who are suffering. And Colossians 3 verses 12 to 8 says it like this: "Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive one another. If any of you has a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord forgave you." Now, I'm a really practical, down-to-earth person. So today, I would like to leave you with one practical thought. Today is Mother's Day. Not everyone experiences Mother's Day the same way for many different reasons. So let's take the time to hear people's stories. And as Colossians said, let's be full of compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience, and do something kind for those in your world today. Speaking of stories, I'd love to invite Becky to come up and share some of her own stories and the lesson that she's learned. Thank you.